And science is the same way, where you could, just take, I was looking at a thing of honey over there, and it's like, you go in, you could be a connoisseur of how the taste is or whatever, but then you could think about how the bees made it, or what the actual substance, the chemistry of the honey is, and it just goes on. And each time you're exploring the thing, you're qualifying what it is for you and how you understand what it is and what you are in relationship with it. And so art and science and words. And
that's actually really similar to, or directly related, almost exactly. The requalifying is a term that I'm going to be using in World 9 more. It's in there now, but I think that almost like that would be if there's something to take from that story, that would be one of the key things of it, is like learning how requalification works for anything. But one of them I just wrote, there's this character Gem who, there's a few scenes where I already have it, where he talks about something that happened and how he immediately saw it and then immediately changed the way he sees it and now approaches it. And it's just kind of in there that he's done this a few times with things. But it's never said that he requalifies really quickly, but it might be one of those things where it'd be really helpful for a reader to hear somebody else say that, because Fudd, the main character, just sees that and it's like, okay, that's what he's doing, I got to do a better job of it than him. But to have some character actually say that's what he's doing might help people kind of almost symbolize or get the symbology of requalification and like what he's actually doing. Like there's a word for it instead of the Gem thing. It's like, it's requalifying, because like an event will happen and the way it's described at one point is absorbing and releasing. So it's like an event happened, he ran into like a giant moose or tiger or something in the woods, and he was like scared, and then he didn't want to go into this area, and then later his mom brought him through there and the moose wasn't there, but she told him like about whatever it is, and then he'd reframe his experience of it to be like, okay, that was like, what did I learn from this? That was really cool and exciting. So it goes from like this thing, I don't want to go into this pit, to, okay, this pit is actually like really cool, and I'm stoked I got to see a giant tiger that was staring at me, and like that's a neat experience. Like just reframing everything and requalifying everything, and now his perspective has changed. Then he learns a bunch of other things about it because he's interested in it, and like it just turns from the almost fear and discomfort and whatever else, like the basic stuff that people do out of attachment, and like when they aren't really aware of what they're doing to themselves, and then requalifying that into things like hilarity and interest and all this other stuff. It's just changing the perspective of an experience, requalifying it into a different frame, and then he transforms, because that's the only way transformation actually happens, is through that requalification. The same way we were talking about language. You learn a word, that didn't change anything. You learn what that word represents, how you can use it, and all this other stuff. You're now requalifying the way you are by the way you interact and relate to things. So it starts absorb and release, which is, he goes inward. What is it going on? What are the knots that I'm tying up and all these other things that, like, how have I qualified this thing? Because I did. And then letting go of, like, whatever that current is and being like, okay, I've given it this quality. I need to let it, like, release that and be like, okay, how do I want to perceive this thing? How do I want to qualify it? And then you've now freed yourself from it. You freed it from you and your relationship to it, and everything is free and loose, and now you can do what you want, and now you're free, and you have all your energy there, and you have this awesome, whatever it was, experience of life, because all experiences of life can be useful, and now it's actually something you can use. It's a symbol that is allowing you to experience life more. So like for Gem to do that repeatedly, but to actually have requalification be like a term that can be used would be probably really handy for readers. Otherwise it's like, well, this kid is
doing stuff.
Yeah. The Gem thing, or like if it did become a pop culture down the rabbit hole type of symbol and term for what that is, I don't know what people would call it, because right now there's no thing that it's called. There's no distinct event. It's just the way this character is with events in general. and that's harder to qualify, to give a symbol, to languageify.
Yeah, it's not an object. I was thinking if...
I guess a quick point on that is, like, if that does have a term, now there is a thing in language that allows people to also requalify. It's not possible until there's a word for themselves, too.
Mm-hmm.